always want to win the weekend, and we accomplished that this weekend. But if Matt just told me if we win the next weekend, he's going to feed you guys. So you guys should want us to win more than he's going to break down and spend some of his confirmation money, I guess.
Go green.
Freddie, why did I think it would come from you? That's apropos. Well, it was a good weekend for us as far as winning. You know, we had mixed feelings on how we played. And then you watch the rest of the tournament, you realize that so many teams had struggles in games. There were a lot of them. The good thing is in the last game we got contributions from a lot of players. 6 players at 9 points or more, and that was good. I think we saw some progress in Nick, and that would be really good, working back into the rotation. You know, there's still stumbling blocks, but even he said he felt so much better after that game, just with a feel, not necessarily physically. For now, you know, our focus is all on LSU. They're amongst the best rebounding teams in the country. They turn people over a lot. One's one of our strengths, one's one of our weaknesses. Field goal percentage-wise, they're giving up 44-45%. Maybe that's their weakness, maybe that's our strength, as we've been one of the leaders in that. They have a tremendous point guard in Trayvon Waters. He can both score and pass with tremendous quickness. They got 2 very big players in Big B Williams at 6'11", and the freshman Naz Reed, who at some time during the year was a top 10 pick. Who knows where he is now, but he's a player that very physical team, and maybe the strength of this whole team is they're one of the, I think they lead the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. They just go like madmen. They've got 3 forwards, some that they bring in, some that start, that are probably as close to teams I had in the 2099 season as I've ever seen. They're athletes. They're 6'5" to 6'7". They're strong, and that's going to be a big concern of ours, especially our lack of depth on the perimeter, because a couple of those guys are wing guys that really go. So excited, opportunity to play another weekend. There's only 16 teams left, and weather's getting nice, days are getting long, and we're practicing at the right time. Questions?
Tom, it is one thing to play a team and be able to scout them and know what they do, but they're a team that's also playing on emotion, being led by an assistant. That's hard to scout into that. How do you deal with that aspect of the game, the emotional side?
Yeah, you know, they also lost a player at the beginning of the year. I guess there's a lot of reasons to play. Sometimes those emotions become negative, sometimes they become positive. I'm not there every day. I don't know what it brings. I just know this. They have one of those junkyard dog teams that I've always appreciated here myself, and they just have a bunch of athletes that are just about all 6'4" to 6'8", with a couple of 6'10", 11 guys, and a small point guard who's quick. So those emotions always matter, but once the game starts, then you got to play the game, and I don't know, and I only say I don't care because I can't control that. I'm getting better at working on what I can control and what I can't control.
That brings me to one of the things that you couldn't control was the Big Ten tournament, the 3 games in 3 days, the quick turnaround, and then on top of that, the championship game at the end of the regular season. I guess where is this maybe 2-3 weeks rank in terms of toughness with the schedule? Because I mean, you had a few long stretches like this, really nothing like this, I would think.
Yeah, I'd say Saturday to Saturday, that was 2 weeks where you're playing for a Big Ten championship, you're playing for a Big Ten tournament championship, you played 4 of the top Big Ten teams, then you play a Bradley team, and then you play, you know, Minnesota again. We played 24 Big Ten games. I don't know how you rate that, but I do know this: it was kind of one and done time from that week before, you know, when you're playing for the Big Ten championship, and then you gotta win the Big Ten tournament every time. If you lose, you're out. And then you get to the NCAA tournament, you lose, you're out. So I'm not sure there's been more pressure. You know, we've had where we played for the Big Ten tournament. We won the last game of the year back in the day, but if we would have lost, we still won the league. If we would have lost the Big Ten tournament, we still were going to be a 1 seed back then. So there are a lot of different pressures on this year's team, and we never had the injuries that we have this year, the lack of people. So I'd say that's where these guys mentally and physically have maybe stepped up to a level that no Michigan State team has stepped up to, at least in a long, long time.
I know you didn't, you're not running quite as much as you did when you had, 10 deep or whatever, but you still want to run. When you're going against a team that offensive rebounds like these guys do, how much does that limit those opportunities?
You know, I look at that as a plus. I mean, they're sending everybody, including the coach, to the boards. If we do get the ball, I think that helps our running game because they're heading south and we want to head north. And but we have to get it first. So I don't think it limits us. I thought at the beginning of the Minnesota game, we were worried about their rebounding. We ran really well. You know, we haven't consistently run well. And a lot of that has been Cassius and his injuries and the things he's gone through. Because Aaron Henry is starting to really run the court now. And McQuaid is getting back pretty healthy. And, you know, the depth of not having Arns, because he was one of our best runners, has hurt. But we think we got to run and get in the open court against these guys too. So we're going to continue to try to do what we do, even at a little better level, including, you know, it was nice to come on at the end of the year. We had more days when we rebounded better, you know, a little lax the first half of the Bradley game and that, but I thought our rebounding was upgraded in the last month. It's going to have to go to another level if you watch these guys on film.
Tom, talking to a few guys the other day, I know we've talked about last year's team to this year's team and just the feel around it. And you know, so a couple of guys were mentioning that, you know, in the past maybe we talked about we want to be national champions and talk about this grand goal. And these guys seem to have that ability to just focus on that one thing that's next and not worry about the bigger picture.
I think there's some truth to that, you know, and some of it goes by what you did. In other words, Denzel Valentine had one goal at 16, win a national championship, because, you know, we thought we had a good enough team in 15, and to get there, we did. We had a lot of people back. I don't blame them for that. I don't think it was such an obsession that it was a negative, but maybe it put more undue pressure on, I don't know. And then we got to the Miles first year when we were just surviving. And then, you know, last year, I mean, we were picked 1-2 in the country. We were picked in the top 10 all year this year. But I think this team has been a little more connected because they've been through more adversity. And anytime you go through adversity, it strengthens you. You know, the adversity we went through last year was maybe outside adversity. The adversity we went through this year has been our own players getting hurt inside adversity. So when you look at it that way, they had to make adjustments that they could make this year. And I think this connected part of it has really been good. I think Nick has really seen that this last game, that, you know, we talked to Nick a lot the night before the last game, how, you know, everybody's a little more connected. He's got to get into that. And that started maybe, you know, right before he got hurt, we started making some adjustments. And then after he got hurt, we just had to make more adjustments. Everybody had to buy in more. There wasn't a lot of time for, you know, if we made mistakes, we knew we were not going to win games. And maybe that's been a positive, because I could argue whether the 30 games we won last year, the 30 games we won this year. I am proud that I looked at the standings last night when I got home, and, you know, I didn't realize, and there were tiebreakers, but the last 4 teams on the computer that there were, you know, it started Northwestern last, and I think it was Nebraska, maybe Illinois, and somebody else, were the 4 teams we only played once. And so I think, you know, playing Michigan twice and Purdue twice and Iowa twice, and the only one of those top 6 that we didn't play twice, I believe, was Maryland. And so I don't think we skated in anyway, you know. We just kind of had to earn our way, and I think you bring up a good point. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. I think we're all looking for reasons, but as I've said many times, it's hard for me to compare the 2 years.
Tom, what was it, my turn? Tom, you guys are 12-1 in your last 13 games. I know turnovers aside from the other night, those were a concern, and you've had some concerns after every win, but just how good of...
What are you saying?
I don't know. How well do you think your team is playing at this point in time? I mean, are you playing some of your best basketball at the right time, despite all that you guys, as you mentioned, the adversity you've overcome?
You know, I think there's times during the game we played some of our best basketball, and that's why you win. And I think we've figured out how to win at the end, and that's why. And then you have a point guard like I have, who, you know, winning time makes winning plays. But I don't think we've been as consistent as I would like us to be. And yet, like I said, when we're making substitutions the other night, and I said, put so-and-so in, and he says, can't do that. We'd have 4 freshmen that haven't played much in the game at the same time, because we tried to look at it as DJ and I do before the game, and what do we want to stay away from? Well, we'd like, if this guy is in there, we'd like to have at least 1 or 2 of these guys in there, and if this guy, a couple times we were stuck. And so I think that leads to inconsistent play, but I think there's times, you know, the start of that game, the stretch that Cassius went, I mean, there's been decent stretches where we played some of our best basketball, and that's what you got to do to win. But consistency overall, and I think you got to add those injuries and those substitutions in there that create some problem. It's not the player's fault, it's just the fact of life.
Tom, where is Nick's head right now as he tries to work himself back in there?
Yeah, I think Nick's in it. I thought Friday or Thursday, you know, his head wasn't where it needed to be, and I thought, you know, we spent a lot of time with Nick on Friday, and I thought he's in the best place he's been since he got injured. He was in here working out on his own yesterday, so we had the day off, and I just think he just felt better. You know, it's easy to tell a guy he's not in as good a shape or he's not this, but he had a good point to me on Friday. He said, I just didn't feel dribbling the ball comfortable. I just didn't feel comfortable. And I said, well, that's normal. But he's never really been out in his career. He's never had an injury where he was out any time. So when, you know, I try to show him, Michael Jordan didn't just come back, LeBron James didn't just come back, you know. Zion Williamson took a longer period to come back to make sure the day he was free to go, we played him, you know. And so I think his whole, I think he's in a good spot now. I still think he's got a ways to go, but I think those 3 guys are really figuring out that we need to get that rotation back, and that's what we're working on a daily basis.
You were excited coming into this year about being a little bit older compared to the last couple of years. I'm wondering, have you seen the benefits of that? I know you lost some of the old guys to injury, but having kind of that veteran core, have you seen the benefits of that kind of down the stretch the last couple of weeks, do you think?
Well, I think with McQuaid, Kenny, and Cassius, I've really seen it. You know, Nick gets hurt. Poor Josh has been hurt the whole time. Kyle Arn's one of my more experienced guys that I can't tell you how much we're missing him right now, because he was my best lane runner, toughest kid. So yeah, I'm seeing the benefits of it because we've really been able to rely on those 3 guys. But 3 guys aren't enough to win big too, so we need to get some other guys. Aaron Henry is definitely coming on if we get Nick back in that fold. And Xavier has been pretty, now all of a sudden you got 5 or 6 guys, and I think that can get it done.
Tom, it feels like Matt McQuaid is really playing free and loose right now. I'm not sure that was always the case earlier in his career. What ways have you seen him develop as a player and kind of turn a corner in that department?
Well, I'd say for Matt is the same thing, you know, the year that he had, his sophomore year, we had the double sports hernia, and he missed the whole year, really. You know, didn't lift the weight, he's not, you know, he's not leaving here to go on the beach and be one of those lifeguards, you know, he doesn't have that kind of body. So, you know, when he couldn't lift and work out, that really hurt him. And I'd say if there's one negative to Matt, not always the most confident kid, and too unselfish. So when you lack a little confidence, you're unselfish. And now I just think he's more confident. He is the guy that lives the game. He is the guy in here all the time. If there's anybody that our team would vote deserves to have this, in fact, got a couple texts the night before our last game, and it was about playing for Matt because he's done so much for the couple guys that sent me it. And so that's, I think, the difference, you know. I mean, you can say he has more freedom. He still doesn't take enough shots. But he's kind of figured out how to win. He's figured out how to be, you know, we really debated where to put him. We were going to put him on Coffee, and that Kelser kid was having such a, and Aaron's is improving as a defender now with a little more athletic ability. And Kelser didn't get I don't know if he scored, you know. And the man will have his hands full this week, no matter who we put him on.
I think you touched on it briefly at the beginning. You guys have been one of the national leaders 2 years running now in 2-point defense and percentage allowed. And what's been the biggest key to maintaining that? Has that been more of a point of emphasis for you than in recent years, or is it the personnel suited to that? Or?
You know, I think Matt's one. I think Matt is one. I think Kenny Goings is one. I think Nick doesn't, you know, Nick's got to get back to his ball screen defense, but I thought at the beginning of the year we were all talking about how much he's improved and down in the block. Nick's as good a defender. He just has a knack to defend a guy. Not a lot of guys score a lot of points on him down there. But I'd say, you know, Cash has improved a little bit, and Aaron has really improved. If you look at the 2 months ago to now, he's improved tremendously. So you got two wings that are really good, and then you got a four-man who's not only really good in Kenny, but really smart. Xavier in the same boat, you know, where you can play him in different positions, they can switch on to people, and that has probably helped us the most, because we have been very solid defensively, and we've been very solid from the three, except a couple of games, you know, Indiana down there, Indiana here, you know, teams that are shooting, maybe we didn't respect their shot, and so that's my fault or our scouts' fault. And but we have been pretty solid both with the 3 and the 2, but definitely the 2 better.
Would you have thought you could be this good defensively, forcing this few turnovers as you have?
No, I didn't, and you know, we chose that too. You know, I mean, everybody wants to pick apart what you do, and you know, I say, God, we're not getting many steals, we're not getting many this. You know, another weird stat for us has been the block shots. We led the conference in block shots, and I keep saying, who's doing it? You know, Jaron coming back as a ghost or what? You know, it's been strange, and so that was a stat that blew me away. That was really an important stat last year, and I didn't think it would be one this year. And it's kind of, so maybe we deserve give Jaron a credit for helping these guys learn. There's something to that.
Tom, you mentioned at the start, you sort of had mixed feelings about your team's play out of the weekend, but then looking around at Tennessee and Duke, the struggles that they had, do you have a little bit different perspective of your team now going forward, looking at the other ones?
I do. You know, even Carolina, the first half, a lot of teams struggled for half, 2/3 of their games. And, you know, it's, we're not, you know, I'll blame you guys, because I blame you guys for something. You know, the media, the fans, they're not, you just see a 13 seed, a 14 seed, a 15 seed, or a 16 seed. And I grew up my whole life thinking, well, those teams suck, you know, but they don't anymore, you know, not just because a 16 beat a 1 or a 15 beat a 2. The parity is just so much better. And you go into those games, and probably as a coach, you're a little more nervous. Players, I still don't think have the same respect for the seeding process but I bet you every coach in America does. And that's why I guess the phrase was coined, you know, survive in advance. It didn't say win in advance, it said survive, because you do have to survive some things, and some of it is, I won't say looking past, and as I said, my favorite one, of course, is Denzel's year, because everybody just assumed we looked past, and that team I thought was as focused as any I had on that task. Some teams are just pretty good. I mean, I didn't like the way we played against Bradley, but I didn't even like more the way they played against us, because they were a physical, tough, good defensive team that caused some problems. And so as I watched, you're right, through the weekend, I saw what I thought were better teams or deeper teams than us, still struggling. I felt a little better about our team.
Tom, in an era when staffs turn over as much as rosters, what does it mean to this operation to have 3 assistants with, you know, such long continuity?
Well, it's the good news, and the only bad news is you want coaches to do exactly what players do. You want them to fulfill their dreams of what they want to become, and 90% of them want to become head coaches. I mean, Mike Garland is going to be here till I die or he dies, just because, or we both do, because he brings something to the table and doesn't want to be a head coach like a Buck Nystrom was here, you know, or a lot of guys that Bo had down there. For Dane and DJ, I mean, I see them getting jobs and yet have had chances. They're just being a little selective. You know, we always say here that we all can complain about where you work, because you all do it. We all do it. But this ain't a bad place to come into every day. And then when you're winning and you have a sense of purpose every day, you know, it might be head coach can be harder than players, can be harder than assistants, but my guys get a lot of opportunities. You know, you go to a lot of practices and the assistant coaches are sitting against the backboard, the basket pad, you know, and here they're working. I mean, they've got offensive and defensive coordinator kind of status. They have to do their things, and you know, assistant coaches never got a lot of credit when I was here as an assistant. They don't get a lot of credit now. I learned from the best on how to do that. But at the same time, there's no way we'd be where we are. I mean, I do get blame, I do get credit, but your staff and your players is why you go to 22 straight NCAA, why you have some of the records that we have. It's the staff and the players. I mean, I had an interesting conversation with I'll share with you, with Xavier Tillman on the bench, and I said, I don't like the way you're leading. I said it politely. I don't like the way you're leading. You got to become a better leader, and especially for next year, you know, because we lose Matt. Thank God we'll get back Josh, but you know, Cash is still a leader. But I said I need somebody vocal, and he looks at me and he says, "Well, I just follow you." And I said, right on the bench, I said, no, this is a player-coach team. That's when you're really good. And after the game, he kind of said to me, you know, I forgot that's what you always preach. And I guess I said, you want me to go out and take a shot? You want me to get a rebound? They don't allow it. Those zebras don't let you. And I think that all those things are part of the process. The assistant coaches and the players are the key. And to answer your question solely, continuity is good as long as everybody's holding everybody accountable. Nobody gets fat and sassy, nobody gets lazy, nobody takes things for granted. If you have that continuity year after year, the continuity of the Gus Judd, Izzo era is 50-some years. I think we've been pretty successful, and I think that continuity, you know, you talk about players coming back, and I listened to, you know, Grant Hill talked to me a little bit about some things this week at the Big Ten tournament, and the reason they do is there is continuity. Like, I'm losing my secretary this year, and I'm worried about it because she's been here longer than I have. That's part of the continuity. Those former players have somebody to call back, and assistant coaches are in the same boat. So, yes, I think we benefit greatly from the continuity of our staff. I think they know how to handle me, and I know what they can do, and I think it's never perfect, but it's pretty damn good.
Time for a couple more?
Wow. That Mex always comes with the correct thing, you know? When he dies, you're gonna have on his casket, time for a couple more. No Mex, then it'll be time for no more.
Too many death references today.
Really? God, and I feel lively, so.
Tom, I'm not sure if your conversation with Tillman on the bench had anything to do with this, but he put the ball on the deck and finished with his left hand Saturday. I guess that's when that was. Matt McQuaid made a jumper off the bounce. Henry had a slip pass on the post, I think, to cutting Tillman. In other words, things that I assume you're probably seeing in practice some, but we haven't seen in games. You talk about little ways of improving it. Are those the kind of things that can get you through the kind of weekend that's coming up?
I think they can. I mean, I told them, I tell Cash all the time, unless we take it to another level, we're not going to be good enough. I do believe that. You know, this team has to get better every day, and that's what's so frustrating sometimes. If I see in a game guys not doing the things they need to do to get better, I never, ever catch myself anymore coaching for just that game. And that might be a fault. Maybe I'm looking forward to too much. But I believe that at Michigan State University, we have goals and objectives and things we want to accomplish. They are taken one day, 1 minute at a time, one game at a time. But if you don't have the overall goal set up on what you want to accomplish, I don't think you can get there either. So I always sign things, dream big, because if you don't dream about it, how are you going to achieve it, you know? If you're just constantly dreaming about it, do you let a lot of things go in the middle? I hope I don't let them go. But I think Tillman is getting better. And if it was a positive thing, I think it was due to that 2-second conversation on the bench. Just kidding. But he didn't invent a left hand, man. He's gotten better at putting the ball on the floor. And Aaron Henry has grown leaps and bounds, as we all know. You know, defensively, he's might have grown more than even offensively, but he's starting to slow his shot down, and that's when he can make a three. And I think McQuaid is just constantly improved. You know, the guy I still worry about is Cassius, because I think he'll do anything I ask of him right now. It's just that sometimes his body's telling his brain where to go, you know, and that is probably as big a concern as I have, because I think everything else, I do think you're going to see another big jump for Nick. I think he's excited about it. It is a frustrating process to come back from injury, and especially when you've never been injured, you don't know how to. So, yeah, if those guys can step it up and we can get Cash fresh, and that's, you know, that's the hardest thing to coach right now. I mean, if we don't work on the ward drill this week, we have no chance. If you do that, you're going to have physical practices. This time of year, how do those balance out? That's what we spend half our morning on up there. You know, what do you think here? What can we do there? Can we be a little more physical in this part of practice and cheat and be less physical in this part of practice? That's probably my biggest headaches right now, to be honest with you.
Saturday night, your guys were exhausted.
You know, my old way would have been, nope, you can rest after the season. Make another depth reference. You can rest when you die. You know, you can do all those things. But, you know, this year I'm trying to use my head more instead of my heart. And so we gave them off Sunday. You know, I know un-American as it sounds, but we did that. And that doesn't mean we're giving them off Monday. And, you know, you just got to be smarter, and I'm trying to adjust to that. I look back on so many things I learned as an assistant, you know, watching Purdue, and why they were so successful at one part and not as successful at the other, or watching, you know, different teams around the country, you know. I mean, I go back to why DePaul lost all those games with Mark Aguirre, you know, it's sometimes I've actually gone back and read articles on different things, and I'll watch pro football and pro basketball and try to figure out. You know, sooner or later, you know, they're going to do what you push them to do, and they're going to do what you tell them to do. And if you give an excuse, they're probably going to take one. And if you don't give them an excuse, you know, it could hurt you the other way. That's where the biggest plus in this program is I respect and listen to what my players tell me. I really do. I mean, we had a couple incidents over the weekend that were, you know, I brought 3 of them together. I brought 4 of them together. Give me your opinion. Give me your this. Give me your that. And one that I was 100% going the other way, I changed because of their opinion. And that's what I wish everybody could see. You know, there is a daily, nightly, hourly text message to somebody. There's something that sometimes it's asking questions, sometimes it's selling it the other way. But the day of coaching where you just kind of roll out the balls, the day of coaching where you put the blocking dummies up and tell them to block and tackle is over. You know, there's a lot more psychological parts of this job now than, and ironically, that's probably why I won't be good at it, because I started out in special education. That was when I started college, and I couldn't take all the psychology courses. And Mariucci and I had a class, and you know, he killed my rat. I mean, he kept feeding it water, and my rat died, so I think I got a D in that class. So I never was good at that, and so maybe now, because of that, and I mean this, I do demand, but I do listen, and that has really helped me, and especially when you got really good kids. Chippy.
Your mantra this time of year has been win the weekend.
Yep.
Last couple of years you haven't won the weekend. Mm-hmm. Against Bradley, it seemed like you felt a lot of pressure to win. Now, having gotten out of that weekend, is the pressure lessening?
No, it really hasn't, because we do want to win the weekend, and the only reason we do is I learned from some of the great programs around the country. It wasn't something that I came up with. It was what you do after you get your program to a certain level. Winning a game in the NCAA tournament doesn't matter anymore. And I know that conventional wisdom will say, yeah, but you have to win the first one before you can win the second one, but that's just not the way we operate. You know, today we'll look at all 3 teams a little bit, and we'll try to figure out what do they do. Is somebody pressing that we don't play the first night? We better work on that. If somebody playing more zone, we better work on that. We don't get into the intricate parts, but the goal is still to win the weekend, and we try to prepare that way. Now, I don't, you know, I think you guys sometimes will assume that things happen, you know, like I think everybody assumed when we got beaten 16 that we looked past them, we weren't ready to play. I just wish you'd have been with me that day before, and night before the game, and how focused and good our team was. Bradley gave us some problems. I mean, you know, as we've all agreed, this tournament comes down to the best teams don't always win. It's not football where the bigger, stronger, best teams usually win. It's matchups. And somebody could play zone, somebody could press, somebody could, you know, cause more problems for your inside guys because they pounded in, now you're in foul trouble. There's so many more variables, I think, to winning in basketball. So I don't think we felt that pressure. Maybe the players did. I said it after the game. I didn't feel it. I've been in a lot of weekends where we've won. I've been in some where we've lost. That wasn't my goal. It wasn't to get out of the first game because I'm feeling pressure and everybody's going to be mad at me. Hell, we got out of the first game and everybody was anyway, so it didn't matter, you know. But it's really about, you know, that culture here where if that puts some pressure on our guys, that's probably a good thing. Maybe it helps you focus more. If you're feeling that much pressure that you can't handle it, I would say, why did you come here? You know what the goals are, you know what we're trying to accomplish each year, but I don't know, that'd be a good question to ask the players. Even though Beck said there was only 2, you know me, if you got a question, that's good. And don't bring me that damn baseball question, Fred, because I have no interest right now. But any
Starts
other?
in 4 days, Bill.
Huh?
It starts in 4 days, get ready.
I'll probably stay up all night that night. Get ready for it. Yes?
What role do Josh and Kyle play right now? You know, they're in the Sweet 16 for the first time, but they're not playing. And
Good question. I'm glad I opened it up. See, sometimes there's good questions at the end. That's a very good question because Josh and Kyle might have played the most important role of all. I asked both those guys to spend some time with Nick on Friday. I said, he's never been through an injury you guys have. And you know how hard it is. And you know psychologically how hard it is. I don't. I never was really injured. You know, mentally and you know physically. And Kyle's been his roommate for 2 or 3 years on the road, I think. And Josh. And what was so cool is I didn't even tell him what to say, and I didn't ask him what they said. But I could just tell it was like a weight off his shoulders, you know. So what do they do for this team? A ton. One gave everything he had on numerous times with the back and the legs and the broken bones and all the stuff. You talk about an inspirational leader, you know, doesn't miss a practice, doesn't miss a meeting. And then Joshua, I mean, you can argue that I think at the time he was our best player, especially two-way player. He has not missed a thing. And even to the point where I gave him a goal, it was the out-of-bounds plays. I gave him something that he had to get our team ready for from the bench. And I love those two guys. Those guys, I don't think I could do what they did. Every time I see Josh at practice, I go, not that they shouldn't come to practice, but usually guys go rehab downstairs or go in the weight room or something. And he's just there. He's there with the fellas, you know, to use a term from Irvin, you know. There's nothing like being around the fellas. And he exemplifies that to both those guys to a major degree.
Tom, I was curious. You always talk about getting more rest for Cassius Winston and keeping his body together. Do you guys do anything extra special? Do you put him in hot tubs and cold tubs and force him to sleep late or anything? Is there anything that you guys are doing special?
Yeah, you know, we have massage people come in and he is, you know, yesterday he came in here because he came here to get rehabbed, and I don't know all the things they'll come up to, you know, but you know, Cash used to be a junk food eater. He's learned to eat better. He's, you know, he's changed. They've helped him. He's in hot tubs, cold tubs. He's in, I don't know, they put those leg things on and blow them up. You can tell I'm not, the medical world is not my key, but they do a lot of things. I think Nick, our trainers and our doctors have been very good. And what I think Cassius has learned to do, which is a big step for an athlete, is learn to embrace those things. You know, because they're all a pain in the butt. They're time you got to spend when you could be just sitting home doing nothing. He's learned to embrace them, and I think it's helped him. I mean, he definitely was a lot better going into Friday's game than he was the week before. And so was McQuaid, who didn't even practice hardly. But then I think he stubbed the toe a little bit and started the second half. And I don't see everything then and don't know everything. And so I think he's doing everything he can do to keep his body where it's at. And then I think we're trying to do everything we can do. We're trying to get him some rest. But listen, if we get him 5 minutes a half, it'll make him that much better. I mean, what he needs to do is when the year's over, take a month off, you know, just because of the little nicks and knacks that he's had. Thank God there'll be nothing surgical like a lot of pro football players. The day the season ends, there's a lineup at the surgery table. He won't be in that situation, but he'll be in the rest table for sure.
LSU's coach compared him to Kemba Walker earlier today or yesterday. I was just curious if you had any reaction to that.
I hope so. I talked to Miles. They just won a big game yesterday, the day before, and Kemba Walker scored 30-some and was unbelievable. So that's a heck of a comparison. And maybe I'd get credit for two guys then, because I always tell Kemba when I see him that, I helped make him over in Hawaii when he scored, I think, 100 points against us. He never repaid me or did anything for me, but that kind of broke out his year that year. And, Cassius is having an incredible year, and I think there'll be more awards yet coming out for Cassius, and very deserving. So, he's still the straw that stirs the drink, but we've got to get those other guys, and I think Kenny, struggled a little bit, had a better game the last game, and McQuaid keeps growing, and Aaron and X, and then, I think the big lift could be Nick coming back, and 20 minutes, he gets 9 points and 7 rebounds the other night. His per minute stats are a little bit more off the charts than you'd think, and as he gets better and gets more comfortable in there, that can really help us.
Yeah, that's to make this in the locker room, but with Aaron, if you had a freshman, and I know Miles was important, but have you ever had a freshman be as vital a cog without anybody behind him, having to play all those minutes?
Well, in Aaron's case, if you think about it, was a guy that I thought we'd play 10, 12 minutes a game, with Josh and Arnie and everybody, and that kid has had to grow the fastest, and he had to grow on both ends. Even Miles, defensively was important, but you had Jaron there blocking every shot, we're actually putting Aaron on some of the best players, and so he is vitally important, but when you're down to maybe 5 guys that have, with any experience, and you need 6, 7, or 8, somebody's going to have to do it, and he was the most ready when we talked at the beginning of the year, because we thought his body was the most ready. He's the most ready because we thought his brain was the most. He was very well coached in high school, and won a championship. He knew how to do that. We knew there were a couple things that had to improve. And I told you Gary Harris gave us a lot of that because he knew him, and he has improved a lot. It's just that he's got to improve even more, be more consistent if we're going to win to the level we need to win at this weekend. And I think he really seen that this weekend. I think he really understands that, and it's been kind of fun. Through all adversity comes a lot of learning and a lot of growing and a lot of fun. And so I think Aaron will have even a better time this weekend than he had last weekend. That's hard to go being an NCAA tournament your first time.
Isn't Aaron the guy Harris pushed you up?
Yes, Gary. Gary keeps close eye on Aaron because from the same area, played on his AAU team, and knows what he's got to get better at, what he's good at. Gary was a pretty good self-evaluator. When he came here, he's still a good evaluator. So, all right, guys, travel safe. Those of you that are going, and